All right, let's talk Oregon Ducks. We are, of course, in the thick of fall camp, fall practice, getting ready for the 2025 campaign. A lot of things to get excited about in Oregon, of course, the quarterback position, a lot of buzz there. But there's another new addition, another new Oregon Duck who's impressing everyone, and he's going to play a key role as the Ducks look to take the next big step towards the national championship. We'll get to that latest report and some interesting data in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. Are the Oregon Ducks under Dan Lanning? We all know it. Everybody knows that they're one of the best teams in college football, one of the top contenders. They're going to prove to be that year in and year out. They've moved into the echelons of the Georgias, of the Texas, right, of the Ohio States. They belong in that bucket and they'll stay in that bucket. Now it's about finding extra pieces, incremental pieces to push them over the top. And one transfer portal addition, a young playmaker by the name of Bear Alexander, was sort of an intriguing addition for the Oregon Ducks. Alexander started his career with Georgia, went to USC. A lot of transfers, a lot of moving around, a lot of question marks for this highly talented prospect. But if you listen to recent reporting on Alexander based on what his new teammates in Oregon are saying, they are blown away by him. Let's pull up the article right here, the report. Then we'll get into some very interesting data on the other side. This is all courtesy of SI.com. Alexander had massive potential after transferring from USC. Already on his third school after spending 1 year at Georgia and 2 at USC, there's been some questions surrounding Alexander's commitment and work ethic. However, the comments of his teammates speak volumes. I like Bear. He's a funny guy, works hard. He's lightning fast too, off the ball. He obviously is learning the playbook, so I'll be talking to him when I'm a linebacker. He's like, man, tell me what the play is. He's picking it up. He said he's going to have a good season for this year. I'm excited, says Botcher. Talking about, of course, Bryce Botcher. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I'm not, correct me in the comment section below. I know you guys will. But again, we've got the linebacker here, kind of a leader of this defense, commenting on what he likes from Alexander. Alexander doing some good things. But it's not just that. Let's go into the second half of the article, if you don't mind here. Uyagalele says, Bear, he's kind of funny, but man, he works. He'll be there in the workout, working, and then he'll come back an hour later. He's doing a whole other workout, almost like 2 a day, but just by himself out there. Freaky athlete. He's a funny guy. He's definitely one of a kind. He works, said Uyagalele. Alexander had 61 total tackles, 36 solo, 3.5 sacks, and 4 pass breakups last season with the Trojans. He had just 5 total tackles, but was able to post a career high 47 tackles and a sack and a half with the Bulldogs in 2023. And so I think when we look at Bear Alexander and look at how he fits into this Oregon Ducks defense and Oregon Ducks team in general, a lot of people, I think not incorrectly, saw the double transfers and said, man, is this guy a locker room issue? Or there's some concerns here? But now going into a short duration with Oregon, it appears to be the opposite, right? Work ethic off the charts, impressing his teammates, team guy, smart guy, learning the playbook. There's a lot to really like right here when it comes to Bear Alexander. And when you look at Alexander's performance in the one season where he actually got meaningful snaps, it should get you really excited. Let's go and pull up our first chart to highlight what I'm talking about. So this is comparing Bear Alexander's 2023 campaign, his pressures per pass rush snap percentage, right? That sounds like a mouthful, a lot of P's in there. But basically what it is how many pressures do you get divided by how many pass rush snaps you got, right? So we're going to look at other interior defensive linemen that were drafted in the first round last year. Tyleik Williams went to Detroit out of Ohio State. Kenneth Grant went to Miami out of Michigan. We'll get to one other first-round defensive lineman that I know you Oregon Ducks fans are very familiar with in just 1 second. But you can see here, based on this metric, you talk about efficiency, the number of snaps you get, number of pressures you get. Bear Alexander in 2023, the only season he got meaningful playing time, was better than first-round pick Tyleik Williams and better than first-round pick Kenneth Grant. That is absolutely outstanding. I always love these efficiency metrics, right? Because some guys, if you play a lot of football, you get a lot of reps, you can build up the stats, you can build up volume, right? Like a volume score in basketball, for example. I love efficiency, especially for a good, talented team, a championship caliber team like Oregon, right? There's going to be a lot of guys rotating in. You're not going to get 1,000 snaps. You're going to have to take advantage of and make plays when you get those opportunities. In Bear Alexander, based on the only season he had a lot of playing time, 2023, he was more efficient than first-round selections Tyleik Williams and Kenneth Grant. But let's switch to another first-round defensive tackle. How about Derek Harmon from Oregon, right? Here's where it gets very interesting. Let's go and go up to our next graphic here. So Harmon, obviously, for anyone who forgot, was a transfer to the Ducks, right? But when you look at the same metric, pressures per pass rush percentage, you can see on the left there we got Derek Harmon, and in blue is his season before coming to Oregon, and on the red is 1 year in Oregon, his first year in Oregon. Look at that leap forward, right? Look at that huge explosion and just almost double when it's all said and done, the blue to red there. That's what the Ducks provide. They provide an environment for transfers to come in and not just incrementally, but massively get better, just be much more productive, much more efficient. Derek Harmon came to Oregon, not unlike Bear Alexander. Alexander had more media attention and more baggage, but a guy that was considered a solid player left the Ducks as a first round pick, a high quality, top notch player. Bear Alexander, interestingly enough, his pressures per pass rush percentage, again in 2023, very similar to Derek Harmon's the season before he showed up in Eugene. So you can extrapolate from this graph whatever you want. I look at this chart and I say there's a really good chance that Bear Alexander, based on what Oregon did with Derek Harmon, provides the same kind of benefit. And Alexander's pressure per pass rush percentage, which basically means how many times he's getting to the quarterback, is going to be a massive weapon. It's going to spike dramatically, very similar to how Harmon did. Now, no guarantees, of course. We got to see how it all shakes out. But when you look at Alexander's work ethic, when you look at the fact he's smart, putting in all the extra time, I think there's a very good chance here that Bear Alexander becomes the next great interior defensive lineman for this Oregon Ducks defense. Again, he was a big name guy, a big name recruit coming out of high school. A lot of people felt that's a transfer, and his career is kind of behind him. When you look at the numbers and look at the reporting, folks, I think his career isn't done. I think he's poised to have a massive impact for the Ducks this season. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Oregon fans in the comment section below, we're talking interior defensive lineman, talking defensive tackle. So I got a question for you guys. Who is the greatest defensive tackle in Oregon Ducks history? There's a couple guys that come to mind, but I think a rather large man in particular, I think shows up in my memory. But let us know who you think is the greatest Oregon defensive tackle of all time. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on all of this going on here out of Eugene?
Yeah, Nick, I think I really like Bear Alexander. I think it's a good fit for the Ducks. And like you said, he has the potential to really find a place and really accelerate his career at Oregon with all the pieces around him. And I think this guy is really special because he's been on some teams that have done some great things. Obviously, he's got that championship experience being on that 2022 Georgia team, obviously won national championship that year. Really great stuff coming out of there. Just having been there, seen everything. I don't think it's going to be moments are too big for this guy. It's not like you said he's coming from, a small like Central Michigan team and then transferring over to Oregon where it's like, ooh, I've never been on a team that's won this many games. He has. He's been all around the block. He's been over on the West Coast to Southern Cal and really done some good, he's seen good football all around the block. So this is a guy coming in. I think we're going to see some really impressive stuff out of Bear Alexander. And I think having that knowledge and not really, having to shy away in the postseason, being a guy that's experienced at, is going to help Oregon. Because when I look at the Ducks are a phenomenal team. You said it in your intro talking about it. This is a team that's perennially worked themselves up to be those contenders. Everyone knows the regular season, the Ducks, they're a really great team. They're going to work themselves into the college football playoff. It's almost a given at this point. But when we look at the Ducks in the regular season, they're great. They're like ranked PFF fourth overall defense in all of college football. Really good numbers, a lot of great stuff for Oregon. But when you look at the postseason and start to look at their postseason grades, they kind of that's where they suffer a little bit. You look at their defensive grade in the postseason, 51st out of all teams in the bowl games, the postseason combined. That's not good. That's not where you want to be as a team that finishes strong. So I like Bear Alexander for that point. This is a guy, he's been there, he's seen what's going on, and already at Oregon, I feel like he moves into Oregon, is with the Ducks, and he's thinking, this team has potential. I want to play to my best. I really want to be the guy out there. Call me a little bit weird if you want to, Yo Aguilera. I love to work out twice a day. I want to put in the work because I think this team is special. And I want to add as much as I can. So I think we see a guy who sees an opportunity, turn his career around, get rid of a negative stigma, go out there, work hard, do two-a-days, and bring a lot of talent to this team. I think Oregon's going to really love Bear Alexander. We're going to see a much different player than we have the last couple years.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to address, and sometimes what can happen, and look, I played small time college football, D1 AA FCS, right? And one of the things that can happen in the locker room is some guys just have a weird personality and it just doesn't fit. And when we're in the NIL transfer portal era, it's almost like AAU basketball, where suddenly if you're kind of a quirky guy or a different kind of guy, it just doesn't work in a locker room that's going with so much volatility, right? When I played college football, granted it was smaller time, there wasn't much transfers. It wasn't much volatility. So the guys you came in with as a freshman class and the entire teammates, you knew each other really well, quirks, good and bad, throughout your entire time with the program. Bear Alexander entered the college football landscape just a couple of years ago with the transfer portal. Now we got NIL flying around. So by all accounts, every single report seems to say kind of an interesting unit, kind of a weird guy, funny guy. I think he's just a character. I just think he's a different kind of guy. He's just, for whatever reason, he's just kind of a little different. Nothing wrong with that at all. There's a lot of characters. John Randall, for example, the Hall of Fame defensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, was absolutely bonkers. He obviously had a great NFL career. So when you look at a guy like Bear Alexander, I just think he didn't find a locker room where he fit. And we're, like I said, when we're in the age of NIL and the transfer portal, coaches don't have patience, right? If you're a young player and you're just trying to fit in and just try and figure things out where you fit into a program, these coaches don't care. They're like, listen, man, you're either playing now or we're just going to bench you and don't care. We're going to cut your scholarship because I want to bring in 5 transfers. The days of developing a player are long gone, and that's just what happened. That's just the world we live in. That's what people with the NIL gives you, right? That's just the fact, right? That's the world, the college football landscape, the players specifically. That's what they wanted, and we're going to see a lot of players like Bear Alexander that need some time to develop, that need to integrate into a program, and they aren't given that opportunity, aren't given much grace. It took him a few years, but now he's in Oregon, a program that welcomes that kind of mentality. You can think a little differently, be a little different. Dan Lanning does a great job integrating transfers into the program. He does it every year at the quarterback position. It feels like bringing in new guys, does it at a bunch of positions, integrates into that culture, integrates into that environment. That's one thing he does so much better than his old boss, Kirby Smart, down in Athens, Georgia. Dan Lanning is phenomenal, bringing a bunch of different people together from all over the country. I think that's what he's done here with Bear Alexander, and here Alexander's got a home. Maybe in Athens, maybe in Los Angeles, working out twice a day, hitting the weights. People would have said, what's wrong with this guy? Is he wrong in the head or something like that? He goes up to Eugene, and people are like, okay, that's pretty cool. All right, he's just another character in the bucket here. And I think he found a home. It reminds me a little bit historically of the old Oakland Raiders of the 1960s, 70s, and early 80s, just a collection of cast and characters that were wired a little bit differently, but hyper competitive, extremely hardworking, and great football players. I honestly think the Oregon Ducks are kind of fitting that mold now in terms of college football, and that's a great place. That's a fun place. That's an exciting place, and they're going to be incredibly difficult to stop this upcoming season. I expect the emergence of Bear Alexander to really just allow this defense to move on some of the losses they've had, guys going to the NFL draft in a big way. I'm excited to see his emergence, and I expect big things from him, this defense up front, and this entire Oregon squad this upcoming fall.